What I've done here today is I've set up typically what I do when I come on to a place to get rid of foot rot, and that is have this sort of system set up. The reason I use these types of cradles is they're easy to adjust, but also too is I can add on cradles from there. Last year, one place we had 6 cradles going in a line to try to get through. And the reason why we have 6 is because we can only, as contractors, as pairers, we can only do between 150 to 300 sheep on first inspection. If you're going any faster than that, I personally think that you're going too fast and you will miss a lesion. Now, that's what we've got to do, is we've got to make sure, A, we try to get rid of human error. And the best way by doing that is getting the mustering right. We try to do a double muster minimum. I find the best way to do it is to get really pally with the employees on the place, offer them a beer incentive to make sure we find any stray sheep. Because at the end of the day, it's those 1 or 2 sheep that are left out that causes the problem, the headaches later on. And so what we do is, as I said, all I can do is control what's in the cradle. That's why we have people like John as my veterinary consultant. He manages everything else. All I'm here to do is to inspect the sheep that are in the cradles that I've got here in front of me. So what I do is I bring a sheep in, put that into the cradle. I will pair every foot. And what I'll deem out of the worst foot is that if there is any lesions, injury, or anything that is structurally not right about that foot, I will put a red dot on it straight away. The reason we put a red dot on it, that signifies that there could be something wrong with that sheep. What we do then, once we do that, is I use a gun, and if we are using antibiotics, I will do the injections in the cradle as well. That way I know as soon as I let the sheep go, it's got every possible chance of getting rid of the bug from what I can do. When they go out, what happens is they go and get drafted outside. Anything with the red dot will then get put into the foot bath, that zinc sulfate, that magical number again of 8 metres plus, or if you can stand them in there for 8 to 10 minutes is even better. And then from there they'll go up onto battens for up to 24 hours after that. Now the next day when we come back to let those red sheep out, those deemed to be infected sheep out, we wait till after 9:30, after that dew's gone off the ground, and that's when we've given it every opportunity for those sheep to come out onto dry ground again. When they come out, I like to run them through the foot bath for one last time. Now those green sheep that we did from the day before do not get foot bathed. They just get let go from there. Because we're working with a bacteria, what we want to happen is that if we have not found it all, and we want it to express itself over that summer period. Now that summer period is when there is no spread period. So when it is expressed itself, we can still get it through in that second and third inspections. Now between the first and second inspection is about 6 weeks minimum. The reason we say 6 weeks is we want them to get over the pairing cuts to make sure that there is no possible way for that sheep to get the disease again. We want to make sure it's healed up nice and quiet, we get a nice white foot, nice clean foot, so that there's no way in our minds, no doubt at all, that we can then let that sheep go back out. Anything that we feel that's not right, or we think it's suspect, is automatically culled. Now when we cull the sheep, it goes straight to an abattoir, it doesn't get sold through the yards from there. Now what we do is also too, is when we are culling for that second time round, is with those sheep that have got the feet that aren't structurally right, if I can find my feet, which one is it? You can see that foot there is our average foot. So as the foot hits the ground, you see that it opens up a little bit, and the toes open up a bit. So that lets air and blood flow get through and around the foot. With the disease being anaerobic, it doesn't like oxygen. If there is enough air flow through there is a 99% chance that the disease will not be staying in there. But if you have a sheep that comes into the cradle that is like that, it's still looking that way, still structurally looks like a good foot, but when you tip it up that way, See how tight the foot is in there? If you've got to really try to open the sheep's feet up to try to get in and find that interdigital skin. What happens is when the bug comes, gets into the foot, it doesn't magically just burrow its way in anywhere it wants to go on the foot. What it does over spring when the grass is at its best, with the clover and that, it rubs in between, opening a scar or a lesion in that interdigital skin for where the bug will actually get into the foot from there. What happens is after that, for it to actually get into the foot, as you can see with this foot on this side, there's no scar in here, there's no crease, there's no mark. But if you have a look on that side, there's a little crease in there. The reason why we have the crease is there is because of the sheep's foot. When it's putting weight on it, there's a little bit of movement with that crack. It's a stress crack sort of thing. So it can, what happens is the actual disease, the bacteria will go into that crack, and that's where it'll go into the foot, up or back. Now, depending on the structure of the foot, is where it goes. If it goes into the heel, that's where the most amount of blood flow is, and that's where you generally get your underrun. When you open the foot up, and you'll see it all eaten away underneath and pairs open from there, or it goes up onto the up into the heel, up into the toe from there. So what we try to do is as much of the pairing as we can in first inspection. So that way, over the whole summer, there is no cause for an injury for that sheep to get reinfected from there. Remember also too, the magical word of 7 days is that we all, from that period on, from once we do our first inspection right through spring the following year, if you've got to bring sheep into the yards, it's always your green sheep first, not your red sheep. Now, even though at the end of the inspections, the third inspection, you've still got that red mob, even though we deem them still be clean, I like to say that you keep it as a red mob. Keep thinking it as a red mob, because if you are going to have a breakdown, 99% of the time the breakdown will be in that red mob before the green mob, okay? Some clients, what they do is they'll actually not join that red group to make sure that there's no lambs get through fences or anything like that to infect other mobs around the place. Also too, one of our biggest problems that we find that if we do have a breakdown, is generally what happens is the farmer or the client will keep their red sheep close to the house, because as soon as they start seeing the sheep starting to get lame or anything like that, they know that there's a problem from there. They can see them every day. But the problem is those sheep will then jump the cattle grid and get out on the road, run down the road. Now, what we say is that if you are doing a program, the best thing you can possibly do is tell your neighbours. Not do what one of my clients did and actually put it in the paper, the local paper, okay? So the reason I say that is because generally what is, the neighbour will come down the road, see your sheep are on the road, and the first thing they do is pick it up and just pop it over the fence. And generally they pop it over the fence into a green mob. And that goes throughout the year in your greens, and it's not, we only use scourable spray cans, so that lasts about 6 weeks. And then after that, some people will actually use the Cyromark and will actually brand the backs of their sheep to make sure. But if you generally know that that is your red mob, everyone can work with them. Another way that we do get breakdowns is that you'll have other contractors come on the place, leave gates open, and you go from there. Same with vermin control people that do that sometimes. So what a lot of our clients will do is for that year, we'll actually not try to get that human error out of it, and will not let other people on the place to try to make sure that they can keep those gates shut and everything like that. So as John said at the start, it's no use doing one of these programs unless you've got some sort of fencing that you're able to know that you can control at least the red sheep from there. So as I said, we can only control what's in the cradle. That's what we try to do. I do have a couple of, especially first inspection, you will get your clients trying to help you, trying to look at it, trying to save costs by helping us push up sheep. There has been a lot of studies done where they've found that contractors will get rid of foot rot better than clients, farmers, because what happens is the farmer will be talking to you, pushing up sheep, and they sit there and class the sheep while they're doing. So not only do I have to say that they've got foot rot or there is a problem, but then they'll look at their wool and we have this big argument over a sheep, okay? So that's why if you've got any problems, talk to your veterinary consultant. The veterinary consultant that I will stress to you, make sure that they do know what they're on about. I had one client this year that said that they had a problem. They went to their local vet that said that they knew what they knew about foot rot and had a look at a sheep and said it's just a sheep thing, just inject it with this and they'll be right. Okay, so please try to source as best you can an expert in the field. If you are to use air pairers, make sure you use your air pairers no more than 90 psi. If you do any more than that, you will actually, what happens is you'll bugger inside the internals, or what you'll do is you'll start forcing it too much. And with forcing it too much, generally what happens is you'll have a finger in the way sooner or later and bang, you'll chop a finger off. Or chop tops off, which I do all the time. Okay, so with that. With also too, make sure that if you are using pairers, only use the pairers with one finger. Only use the trigger with one finger. If you use two, you start getting really good at it and you start forcing and then you'll lose a finger. Now the best thing they say is use mesh gloves. I reckon the only reason you use mesh gloves is when you cut it, your finger won't fall on the ground. Because when you see some of these, way these pairers go through some of the feet, they will go through mesh. I have seen it. So with that. So is there any questions?
Do you have any problems with foot abscess?
Yes. Foot abscess, the toe abscess, the abscess bacteria lives in the ground, and generally a lot of the times what will happen is it's poor structure in your sheep to start off with. It's actually given that injury for that bacteria to get into. We find that when we do programs, anything that has a toe abscess or a fibroma, any of you people that have got pole dorsets, you see that big bit of skin that goes in between the feet, that's called a fibroma. That lays against the side of the foot. Generally, as the sheep gets older, that foot will actually close up and join together. That's the point where that harbours the disease in from there. So yeah, so any toe abscess or anything like that, we try to make sure that we cull out with the sheep in the first inspection. The antibiotics does clear some of it up, but generally you'll find that it will come back. Unless it's right at the bottom of the foot that you can cut most of it out and cut the blood supply to it out, you can dry it out and go from there. But other than that, if you are to do a program, what we suggest before you do a program, once you're deemed you are going to do one, every 7 to 10 days during spring, you walk your sheep through an 8-metre foot bath. We have found that we've gone from areas where we've said that the sheep have been up to 80% infected. By doing that regime over spring of 7 to 10 days, can pull it back to about 30%. So for that little bit of time, the best that I've ever done is 16,000 sheep I foot bathed in one day. That's with 4 sets of foot baths going all over the place. So it can be done. So yeah, the thing is with this disease, if you keep it simple, you can get rid of it. As soon as you try to put other parameters and everything like that to it and start adding different things to it, it is a lot harder to get rid of. But if you can make sure that you control your crossovers for that 7-day period, keep them separate, especially on sheep that you bring on the place, and especially if you do bring in sheep on the place and they are deemed to be, you think that there is something wrong with it, make sure you get it checked as soon as possible so that you do have an option to be able to get rid of the sheep before it happens. I know one place this year, they've gone through a program, they asked the stock agent that they only wanted sheep that are 100% clean. They got the clearance from the stock agent, they got the clearance from the owner that they had 100% clean sheep. As soon as the sheep come off the truck, we found score 3 straight away. That's underrun. Score 3 is underrun. So what happens is score 1 and 2 is just the redness in between the interdigital skin, which John will show you. And once they start underrunning, that's where it's score 3, and score 4 is where it's eaten right over, and score 5 where it's black full of maggots. So, any questions before you go swap over?
Normally when you prepare in the middle of summer,
Yep.
we tend to wet the yards up to soften the hooks.
Yep.
Now you're dealing with dry hooks and dry.
Yep, that's why we try to, if we can, we foot pair before Christmas, so the foot is still soft enough, and then after that, if we're foot paired correctly, we shouldn't be having to do too many more foot pairings from there.